Hello, and welcome to this Google Cloud webinar entitled Understand Your Audiences Better with Global Scale Data and Analytics. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can ask them at any time by submitting them in the box below the screen. There are Googlers and Looker experts on standby ready to answer them at the end of the presentation. Also, we'll be answering some of the most popular questions we've heard from users and customers during the presentation. So let's get started. My name is Saurabh Gupta, and I'm a customer engineer with Google Cloud in the telco, media, and entertainment vertical. Today, I'm accompanied by Chris Billett and Shantan Mehdi from the Looker and partner ecosystem.
Thanks, Saurabh. As he mentioned, my name is Chris Billett. I'm a senior sales engineer with Looker at Google Cloud. I specifically focus on the telecom, media, and entertainment verticals.
Hi, I'm Shantan Mehdi. I'm a solution principal with the data and analytics practice here in Slalom, New York.
So today we have a fair amount of stuff to cover. We'll start with an overview of Google Cloud's data and analytics solutions. We'll go through a demo of leveraging these solutions in the media and entertainment space. And then we'll talk about how you can migrate to Google Cloud with the help of Slalom Consulting. And finally, of course, there'll be the Q&A. So media is moving to a direct-to-consumer model, and it's driving a need for deeper audience engagement. Media companies want to create smarter content. They want to enhance how they personalize that content for delivery to end customers. And of course, they want to have data-driven advertising so that campaigns are more effective. Once they collect the data from all these different aspects of their business, they want to share that data across the organization. And all this data is very valuable, and it has a lot of implications for user privacy. So all this data has to be governed and protected properly and in accordance with all state and local laws. This data explosion for media companies is a very new phenomenon, and it's actually causing us a fair amount of problems. So data volume is increasing. By some projections, 25% of the world's data will be from media and entertainment sources by 2025. And this data is very fragmented. It's in many different places in many different formats. So there's the video content, there's the marketing data, the advertising data, and so forth. All of this is leading to a lack of actionable insights. Businesses are so busy managing the data that they're not really able to use that data in a productive way to get something meaningful about their business from it. So Google Cloud is here to help you achieve your goals with your data and your analytics practices. We help you develop data-driven content strategies, provide higher quality viewing experiences, and ultimately give audiences what they want. This is done with the Google Smart Analytics platform that leverages BigQuery, which is the analytics data warehouse, and Looker, which is the visualization tool that brings you unified metrics, modeling, permissioning, etc. So in today's demo, we will actually take a look at a data pipeline. And the data pipeline has a few different steps, but we'll be mostly concerned with the absolute front end of it and the absolute back end of it. At the front end, you have a player, much like any user would in their browser or on their OTT device, and they'll be playing videos. All these actions generate events, which are ingested at scale from an ingestion endpoint running in Cloud Run. This is then put into an event stream. It's put through a data processing system so we can clean up the data, account for any inconsistencies, and then finally land that in BigQuery in streaming mode. Finally, we use Looker as a visualization and analytics tool sitting on top of BigQuery to take a look at that data and derive some meaningful insights from it. So when you're looking to get started with Google Cloud's BigQuery and Looker tools, you can get started by capturing metrics of your audiences globally. You can create actionable insights, and you can govern them with the specific requirements that you'd have for your business from a data retention, data residency, and data governance standpoints. So capturing metrics. Many times capturing these metrics can be problematic because the scale just isn't there to take in all the data that's coming your way. Google is, you could say, famous or infamous for having very, very large scale capabilities with data. These capabilities come from the design of our data centers, the design of the ability to ingest gigabyte or petabyte scale streams and store them and manage them with ease. And once you have this data and you can manipulate it with ease, you can really build and operationalize meaningful insights on top of it. So you can create models directly in place. Using BigQuery, you do not need a specialized set of tools outside of BigQuery to do that. Of course, you can if you choose to, but you can start to do BigQuery analytics directly within, machine learning analytics directly within BigQuery, and really start to leverage your data as soon as it is collected. Additionally, the management of data is also very critical. As you can see, Google Cloud and BigQuery and Looker comply with a wide range of US and international compliance standards and other government mandates. And of course, more details are available from your sales team. So I'll now pass this over to Chris, who will go into the details of using BigQuery and Looker.
Thanks, Saurabh. So we're going to take a deeper dive here on the insights portion once you've actually gone ahead and collected and standardized all that information within BigQuery. And a couple key things that we want to hit on about Looker's flexible architecture. First off, you're going to have the ability to have the access to all the information that's stored within BigQuery. So we're really going to be leveraging the horsepower of that database to run those analytic workloads. Additionally, Looker is a lightweight web-based application that does not require any installation on your users' devices. And we provide a semantic modeling layer that will give the agility to serve end users as changes come up, but also give the ability to standardize and govern information across the organization. Lastly, there's an extensive RESTful API that can be used to support custom applications and workflows, and we'll get into that in some more detail here a little later on. One of the key tenets that we want to talk about here with Looker is the ability to start proliferating those insights out to everyone within the organization. So not necessarily the executives that need to have, say, the 10,000-foot view, or those individuals that are in the weeds actually dealing with the data in a functional day-to-day way. The way I like to think about Looker is as if it were Google Earth for your data. If I'm that executive, I can get that 10,000-foot view. But if I am someone that's down in the weeds, I can always drill down to that street level view. And the reason that's possible is because we're sitting on top of BigQuery and have access to all of that data and all of that information. Another important thing that we want to point out here is the notion of Looker blocks, which are pre-developed data templates or data models for specific types of analysis or data sources that you might be leveraging. Specific to the media space, this could be content creation and viewership or event analysis. This could be focused on retention analysis. It also could be focused on marketing and advertising, or understanding subscriptions and how transactions are actually proliferating through the different systems. The idea here is really to decrease that time to value and start to serve all of those different user types that we've begun discussing. Taking a bit of a deeper dive here, there are really three different aspects that we want to focus on with respect to media and analytics. One is building and monitoring your media brand. The next is accelerating the time to insights across the entire organization. And the last is turning those insights into actionable results. So once somebody knows what's going on with the business, what's that next step and what do they actually want to do, or what's the next system that they might be interacting with? So it's not necessarily just this notion of consuming dashboards or visualizations, but potentially some downstream workflows that may be built off that as well. First, talking about building and monitoring your media brand, we'll hone in a little bit more on this notion of blocks, pre-configured analysis, API calls, and UI components. So first, Looker provides the ability to do subscription and viewership analysis and has templates by which you can roll that out on top of a standardized data schema to basically get a set of dashboards and reports in a much more timely fashion. This also applies to the Marketing 360 or the ad spend space, in which we can really help drive value that we've seen across a number of our different customers, whether it's in this specific vertical of media or just from an advertising and marketing perspective in general. We also provide the ability to build custom applications. So for many of these media companies, building a very tailored and branded analytics experience can be very important. That is something that Looker will provide templatized API calls, UI components to help decrease that time to value to creating these custom experiences. Talking about accelerating that time to insight, it's really about enabling the entire organization. So whether I'm that executive, as we discussed, or whether I'm that analyst, we really want to facilitate them answering their own questions, but making sure that they're also talking about the same thing. So that's where the centralized data model in Looker comes in an utmost important. That will allow you to have agility to go ahead and actually change things as end users need to see changes within the platform, but also establishes a level of standardization and governance across the organization so there isn't data chaos and confusion around how things are defined. The last piece here, as we briefly mentioned, is turning those insights into actionable results. So in the case of marketing, as the example that we've been talking about here, maybe I directly want to actually pause a campaign or view a campaign within a Google product like AdWords. Those are actual integrations that can be built directly within Looker. The idea here is that you want to have one place to go ahead and actually do all of the action that you need on top of the data. So rather than having users find something in Looker and then jump to another system to perform an action and then potentially another system after that, it's more of think of it as a one-stop shop for facilitating everything you need data related. Now what we'd like to talk about is managing and governing these data insights and talking about the complete picture of bringing both Looker and BigQuery together into a unified and integrated platform. So why Google Cloud Smart Analytics? First, with BigQuery, you're going to get that ability, as we discussed, to query complex data structures and enable that querying to a wider audience of less technical users. You're also going to give that ability to manage petabyte scale data and have the ability to scale to whatever volume you need as those data volumes continue to grow within the vertical. And then from a time to value perspective, from your users' perspective, the ability to really leverage those blocks to get that common logic across all of your different products and tools that you might be using, and really starting to enable the less technical users within the organization to have access to the data that is housed within BigQuery and the power of BigQuery itself. When we think about an end-to-end protected and governed cloud platform, we know that enterprises are not necessarily going to always standardize on one cloud. Now, from a governed perspective, if you did want to be all housed within GCP using BigQuery, using some of the different data transformation products and storage products that we've talked about in addition to Looker, that is totally doable, and everything is housed within the region of your choosing and will be available only within the Google Cloud ecosystem. So everything is secure and remains within that one environment. On the other hand, though, we know that you may be transitioning other systems into Google Cloud or potentially just have some other systems for very specific use cases. And we'd like to be able to be flexible to facilitate those use cases as well. So in those cases, Looker is going to give you the ability to connect to other data warehouses from other clouds or on-premise data centers that you have. And in conjunction, BigQuery will also work with other external tools that you may have already purchased and have within the organization. There are a number of different companies using both Looker and BigQuery today. You can see a subset of those. A great example of a company using both to democratize information across the entire organization, as well as build custom applications, is Essence, and you can see that listed in both of the platforms there. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into a demo environment of both the BigQuery event capture side of things, and then the analytics and reporting that you could do on top of that with Looker.
Thank you, Chris. So let's jump over into the demo. So here you're seeing a simulation of a streaming video platform, just like you would on any normal streaming video platform on your OTT provider's app or your set-top box or anything like that. Here we have a set of movies, and the users can choose any one of them. Before we start the demo, let me activate my browser's debug window so we can see the events as they're fired from the player. So here I'm activating that, and you're seeing the debug logs show as new events get emitted. Now I'm going to choose one of my favorite movies, which is Caminandes. This is a Blender movie. And thanks to the Blender Foundation for releasing these under Creative Commons. So let's click on HLS. And here the ad starts to play in a pre-roll format. And you can see that there are 9 seconds left, 7, and you can see the different quartile events being fired here. So let me click on the ad, and you can see that the ad takes me to the landing page for the ad. In the event that this was a real ad, you would see the product placement or the relevant information that the customer would see. When we switch back to our player, the ad has paused. You can see that the ad is paused, and again, these events are getting fired off. So let's resume playback here. You can ignore these things on the side. They're mostly to measure various metrics. So here, again, I muted the sound and those events are fired off. So let me quickly hit pause on the video. And again, those events get emitted. There's a fair amount of richness that can be embedded in these, including things like the session ID, the timestamp, user location, also other aspects of the user experience. So you can get a really good view as to how your player is performing, what platforms it's running on, and where customers are actually viewing your content. So with that, I'll pass it over to Chris, who will now give you a view of how these events that are emitted from the player are making their way into BigQuery. And once they land in BigQuery, how you actually start using them with something like Looker to get a real deep insight into the performance of your players and your content on the browser or the desktop. Over to Chris.
Thanks, Saurabh. So now we're going to take a look at the same streaming data that he just demoed within the context of Looker's UI. So Looker is directly connected to the same BigQuery instance that is being fed that data, and we have the ability to analyze those real-time and streaming events directly within the Looker platform. Now, when we land in the platform, you're going to notice up here at the top that there really are 4 different functional areas. You're also going to notice that Looker is a lightweight web application in the browser. Now, the first tab, the Browse tab, is really meant to serve as the content management suite within Looker. And these tabs are also going to correlate with the different roles that we discussed earlier in the presentation. So for your executives who are maybe only consuming content, they may only see the Browse tab. Individuals that are more of those power users, those data inclined individuals, they're probably going to see the Explore tab, and they're going to have the ability to slice and dice, maybe augment reports, create new reports from scratch, and then publish those things over into the Browse tab. The third tab over here on the right is the Develop tab, and that's Looker's semantic modeling layer. So in its simplest form, this is where we're going to tell Looker how to write SQL against BigQuery. We're going to also integrate governance and standardization for the organization. So as we want to define metrics and KPIs, that's where we'll build in that business logic. Additionally, the Develop tab is also going to facilitate reusability around BQML and give us some additional functionality on that side, which we'll dive into. And then the last tab over here on the right, the Admin tab, that's where you do things like your standard user provisioning, adding new data source connections, and the like. If we take a look at this dashboard, we can go ahead and scroll down for a moment. You're going to see that we have a number of different visualization types represented here. This is really only a subset of the visualizations that Looker has available. And that visualization library can also be extended with any custom visualization that you may need. Now, you'll notice that we are taking advantage of some blocks within this dashboard. So as an example, this viewership funnel is based upon some logic for a funnel block that we have to help create these types of analysis. The idea there, right, is really to, as we've discussed, decrease that time to value. Now here we can actually see events flowing in real time, and I could have this tile refreshing on some kind of automated schedule if I want. I actually have a colleague behind the scenes playing with this data. So if I go ahead and hit clear cache and refresh, we'll actually go ahead and watch some new events go ahead and be piped directly into that tile. And there you go. You can see some new events have gone ahead and populated. And that's because my colleague has just opened up and fired off some new sessions on that side. Now, if we scroll down on this dashboard, you'll see we have some ad-specific information, and then we have some predicted sale information based on some BQML information that we'll get into in a little more depth. Now, at any point, if I want to click on these 3 dots next to any one of these chart or video titles, I may want to get a better understanding for how one of these video titles is actually performing. So what we've learned here at Looker is dashboards are great for telling you what's going on within the organization, but you may want to take a deeper dive and understand why is there that trend or why is that anomaly actually occurring. And that's where Looker sitting directly on top of BigQuery is going to give you that ability to get to whatever granularity of the data that you need. So even as a non-technical user, I could say jump over to a Caminandas 3 dashboard. If we go ahead and jump over there, you're going to see that we're going to programmatically filter this dashboard down to that specific title. And then if I scroll through here, we're going to see much more specific metrics to the specific title that we've gone ahead and selected in this case. So really allowing those non-technical users at a dashboard level to start to answer those why questions and understand what's really going on within the data. So now we may want to take a deeper dive into one of these specific tiles, something like this ad funnel by video. So looking at the different ad performance metrics by the actual video titles. What I can do is I can click on these three dots and we can say explore from here. That's going to go ahead and open that report within the context of the explore section. Now, what you're seeing on the left side are the different tables and fields that I have access to. In this case, we have a singular table for our events, and I can select some different attributes that I may want to slice and dice this report by. So in each of these different attributes that you see on the left side has a little SQL snippet that defines it on the back end. So what Looker is actually doing is it's generating a SQL statement to go ahead and return the desired result set for that user. So in this case, maybe instead of looking at things by, say, video title, maybe I'll go ahead and pull that off and let's bring in devices instead. I can go ahead and hit the run button in the right corner to actually execute that query against BigQuery and see that result set returned here. If I also want to take a look at the SQL, you can see that Looker went ahead and updated that SQL and added a new object for that device field that I went ahead and just pulled in. Now from here, there are potentially a number of things that I want to do. Maybe I want to visualize this data, right? And actually add this back to the dashboard that we were looking at. I could go ahead and do that by clicking on this gear in the top right corner and saying save as individual look, or I could say save to dashboard, which would then allow me to choose the dashboard that I want and publish that over into the Browse tab. We also could download the information in a number of different result formats and schedule that out, and we'll get into a little more depth on that as we jump into some of the examples around BQML. So if we jump back to our media viewer analytics dashboard and take a look at the BQML portion, you can see here that we're predicting the users that we're going to have ad sales to, but maybe we want to start manipulating and interacting with this machine learning model without needing a data scientist. So what we can do is we'll jump over to a BQML specific dashboard that gives us a lot more details about this predictive analysis that we're running. We can see that same list of the audience here on the right side. Now, what I can do on this dashboard is I can start to interact with how the model is actually generated. So maybe I want to change the propensity to purchase up to, say, 75% or lower it to 50%. I have the ability to do that and actually watch that proliferate directly into the BQML model itself. Now, something that a user may want to do is they may want to automate some kind of workflow after creating this list. So if we jump into the explore section for that list here, you'll see that we are going to have the ability to start sending that information to a number of potential sources. So yes, someone could come in here and manually download a CSV of this information and then say, go ahead and upload that to some kind of marketing system to go ahead and kick off that campaign. But if we could have that workflow directly built into Looker so that it's a one-stop shop for all your data needs, that's the ultimate goal. So if I come up here to that gear again, we now can make these BQML results actionable and really bring things full circle by coming down here to this send module. Now, as an example, maybe I want to ship this over to Marketo to go ahead and kick off that campaign, as I mentioned, or we can even do something more automated where maybe I still want to send a CSV to the Google Cloud Storage bucket, but then downstream from that, there's some kind of workflow where the CSV is taken and it's actually imported into another system. Really, the idea here is to integrate into the existing workflows that people have today and to stop having them jump around from, say, system to perform every single task that they need to perform. If we jump back to the Explore tab, one thing that I also want to call out is by taking a look at the SQL within this BQML model, we can actually see some of the things that you might run within, say, the Google Cloud Console with respect to creating and predicting your BQML model. Here you can actually see we're calling that predict function. So rather than taking advantage of that within the GCP console, we're going to use that within the LookML data model to add a whole nother level of reusability. You can also see that we're defining that input table here within the SQL, and that's also something that we can programmatically update within the data model. This really facilitates allowing your data scientists to continue working in the same tool that all of the users who are going to be consuming and interacting with the information are. So now we're going to take a peek under the hood and we're going to look at the Develop tab, which is that semantic modeling layer in Looker. As we described, this is really where you're going to build in some of the functionality that might be specific to BigQuery, things like patterns to take advantage of, partition tables, BQML. But this is also where you're going to describe that business logic and govern the different metrics and KPIs that your organization is looking at. Now, here within the modeling layer, we have what are called view files, and those are going to describe the tables that we have in our database. Within those views, we have what are called dimensions, and dimensions are really fields on that table. So in this case, you can see we have a dimension for city, and that is a column that resides on our viewer events table. If we scroll down a tad here, you also can see that we can use raw SQL to define a dimension in any way that we see fit. So you can have dimensions that are derived on top of columns that exist in your database, or create columns that don't necessarily exist within your data structure today. If I go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of this file, you'll see that we have our measure definitions. Measures are going to be pretty similar to dimensions. The major difference here is we're specifying the aggregation type that we would like. So in this case, we're doing a count, and we're doing that over this entire table and filtering by a specific event that we want to count. Now, this is also where we're going to build in that BQML reusability, as I added before. So if we take a look, we'll jump over to our predictions view, and you can see that here we're denoting things like the training input. And this really gives us the flexibility to start updating what these inputs might be without having to go back to the BigQuery console or back to another tool that you might be working within. It really standardizes everything in this one location. As I start to scroll down here, you can see that we're actually going to create that model here directly within the LookML side of things. And then we're even going to evaluate and run those predictions directly from the LookML side. So really what we're doing is we're adding a whole element of reusability to BQML and facilitating that usage to those non-technical users through that Explore or dashboard UI that we talked about earlier. Awesome. Now that we've concluded the demo, I'm going to pass things over to Sayantan to go ahead and dive deeper into how you can jumpstart things and kickstart an implementation with Slalom Consulting.
Thank you, Chris. I love the demo. I think there were a lot of good takeaways there for our audience around BigQuery and Looker. So for the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a journey of how we have migrated and modernized our clients on Google Cloud. Very quick, Slalom is a modern consulting firm that's focused on strategy, technology, and transformation. We drive business outcomes for our clients, and we have partnered with Google Cloud on a number of large strategic transformation engagements on a wide variety of use cases, ranging from standing up a new OTT service to creating more personalized experiences for their audiences and consumers. So this story that I'm going to tell today is about a client that was on a legacy on-premise stack. They are a large professional sports league, and they had amassed 25 terabytes of fan data. Now, the stack that they were on really didn't have flexibility, scalability, didn't allow them to innovate and create differentiated experiences for their viewers. And what they were looking to do was attract a wider range of audience to their games and a younger generation of audience to the games. And with their inability to scale and create these differentiated services on the stack really prevented them and inhibited them from launching those services. The stack that they were on was also a large MPP platform that was up for a license renewal. and that license cost was extremely prohibitive. And the migration to Google Cloud really enabled them to, one, take advantage of some of the differentiated services that Google Cloud provides, which includes BigQuery and Looker, and two, it created a lot of efficiencies within the organization when it came to launching these new services and creating these differentiated products for their business and their customers. This was a complex migration, as you can see from the metrics on the slide. It was a 25 terabyte data warehouse and it was their enterprise data warehouse that had to be moved over to Google Cloud, and it included all the upstream and the downstream integrations. Slalom partnered with Google Cloud and really successfully delivered this migration in under 6 months and set up the client on their modernization journey. One of the biggest drivers of success for this migration was our value-based approach. We had a blended team of Slalom, Google, and the client that really worked hard to leverage this approach and break down this complex migration into very simple chunks. This effort that was spent in upfront planning and establishing our methodology helped create momentum by showing success early and often. What we were able to do was set up the foundation to accelerate our clients' modernization program, and we really enabled them to create a platform that allowed them to take advantage of the diverse managed services that Google ecosystem provides. At the end of the day, they were really able to create these engaging experiences for their fans through more real-time stats by overlaying real-time stats, which created a more engaging viewer experience. They were able to launch very differentiated products and experiences faster. So for example, they had a lot of, and in the current environment, it resonates a lot. So they had audiences that were starving for live sports, and they were really desperate to get their hands on content or highlight reels of old games. And this platform really enabled our client to create that curated content, target the right audience with that content, and satisfy the hunger for live sports and games. Now, one of the biggest outcomes of this engagement was that we really simplified their overall architecture and tech stack, which truly enabled our client to innovate quickly on Google platform. Now, one of the biggest drivers and one of the biggest outcomes that came out of this was a holistic view of their audience. Now, with a complete 360-degree view of their audience and consumers, they were able to understand which products, which services, and which fan experiences should they invest in, and where would they get the return on their investment. Again, I would like to reiterate that this end state architecture and the end state platform that we delivered to our client truly allowed them to be agile and flexible and leverage all of the scalability and some of the other benefits of Google Cloud to drive self-service for their business and other really complex ML workflows for the business as well. I really enjoyed presenting our migration and modernization journey for this client, but I'm looking forward to having more conversations here. If you have a use case within your organization where you're looking to pivot and accelerate your cloud and digital transformation, I believe Slalom is uniquely positioned with Google Cloud and Looker to drive and accelerate those migration and modernization journeys for you. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As we dive into a few frequently asked questions here, feel free to keep inputting questions into the text box, and we can answer those towards the end here. A few common questions that we hear are, is Looker a part of Google Cloud? The answer is yes, Looker was acquired by Google Cloud and is now a part of the GCP infrastructure. With that being said, if you'd like to kickstart conversations around either Looker or any of the other GCP products, your Looker sales reps or the GCP sales reps are a great starting point. The next question here, are there other blocks in Looker or just specific for digital media? Great question here. The answer is that really the blocks span a number of different use cases. So those could be for specific data sources, something like a Salesforce or a Google Analytics or Adobe as an example, or those could also correlate with specific types of analysis that you may want to do. So something like affinity analysis, which could be applied to both digital media and retail. People that watch this show are likely to watch X show, or people that purchase X product are also likely to purchase X product. What native BigQuery functionality can Looker take advantage of? Really, Looker is going to take advantage of all of the native BigQuery functionality. So whether that is BQML, partition tables, that could really be the BI app engine, right? That is an integration that is being finalized as we speak. The idea is that anything that is developed within BigQuery is ultimately going to be available to you within Looker to enable those less technical users. And the last question here, do I have to use BigQuery and Looker together? As we touched on in the deck there, you can, and the preferred method is to use the two tools together. But in the situation that you potentially have other databases or other tools that you would like to leverage, we are absolutely flexible to working with what your organization's needs are. Now we're going to dive into a couple of resources that you can leverage if you'd like to learn more about what we talked about here on the webinar today. First, if you'd like to register for Next on Air, which is free, there will be lots more content about Looker, BigQuery, vertical specific solutions, and then all of the other GCP products that will be available. If you'd like to learn more specifically about media and entertainment, you can head over to our solutions page on the Google Cloud website to learn more about what we're doing within the vertical. And then if you'd like to learn more specifically about Looker, there also is a cloud page that you can navigate to learn more about the specific platform. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. That is going to conclude our Smart Analytics webinar for media and entertainment. I'd like to give a special thank you to Shayan Tan for joining from Slalom Consulting and walking us through an implementation that they've done. And a special thanks to Saurabh for helping on the BigQuery side and walking us through some of the use cases and the demo of his streaming platform.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Saurabh. Thanks for inviting me, and this was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys again.
Likewise, Chris, thank you so much for your expert insights into BigQuery and Looker, and Shayantan also for your deep introduction into Slalom and the help they gave a customer in a successful migration. Looking forward to speaking to you all again.
Have a great day.